Welcome back to the Is Just Coffee podcast. Today's episode, we have Dan Dick, who's a very good friend of the podcast and a welcome guest and an informed guest. In today's episode, we cover some topics that are quite relevant if you're a business owner, and it doesn't really matter if you're in the coffee industry or not. So I think you'll all get something out of this. It's very funny. There's some controversy. I might have a lawsuit or two coming my way, but as always, guys, enjoy and remember, it's just coffee. Welcome back to the It's Just Coffee podcast. I'm Kirk Pearson and geez, who are you?
I am Dan Dick.
Okay, Dan Dick's back in the seat. Rowan Cook, also known as Patient Zero, is away this week. He's got a bit of the COVID.
Well, his spicy cough is my gain, so very happy to be here once again, Kirk. Thank you very much for having me.
No, thank you so much for joining. Just a quick little question. You've brewed up a little number for us here. Tasting outstanding. I'm drinking it. You're drinking it. Producer Liam's drinking it. What do we got?
We've got a PNG coffee, the Kendang Mill. It's from my coffee company, Born and Raised. I'm really bullish on Asian coffees at the moment, and it seems that perhaps the specialty coffee community is sharing that based on the success of the current reigning world champion, Mikhail Jackson. And but we love this coffee. It's been a real crowd pleaser. It's exactly what I think punters need to introduce themselves to the industry. It's bombastic. It is exactly what it needs to be. And
I love the coffees from Papua New Guinea and sort of your Timor-Leste as well, located in the Pacific, close to us, good neighbours of Australia. But also coffees like this have excellent body. They make great espressos. They make great milk coffees. So,
milk is the vehicle for people to really introduce themselves to specialty coffee. So if you can't present a coffee in a way that's going to break down those barriers, and I've always found that something delicious in milk, bit of fruit, bit of funk, it's a really easy talking point somewhere for people to start.
And I don't know if customers in the US would get such access to these, or Europe, because coming from the Pacific, it would have to travel quite a distance, just a stone throw away for Australia. But hopefully if you see it over there, please buy some. Good. Yeah. It's excellent. We're going to start off with some coffee news. So Liam, let's hit that button and let's get some news. We got a tune since you last came.
I love the sting.
But we're going to start off with something really positive. I love this one. Coffee chain creating new opportunities for people with disabilities. So this one's in the US. Founders and CEO Ben and Amy Wright opened the coffee chain after their third child, Beau, and their fourth child, Bitty, were born with Down syndrome. So today there are 20 Bitty and Beau stores across 11 states and Washington, D.C., employing more than 400 people with Down syndrome, autism, and other disabilities. Of all the coffee chains, this is one of the things that makes me most happy. And giving people who have that disability a lifelong sort of skill, giving them sort of a bit more dignity to be able to go to work and I think I was reading a bit more about it. They were saying they find people, they see what they're good at, then they give them a role in the business. And I think that's excellent.
I've always thought that coffee's superpower is its ability to bring people into a community, and to see that community really advocate for inclusivity is just, it warms my heart to hear that. So great news.
I'm super stoked for that one. Well done to them. Hopefully they keep growing, and who knows, maybe we can get them on the podcast. But if you're in the US, we're in Australia, but if you're in the US, go to Beau and Bitty, support that. Speaking of the US, the global specialty coffee shops market is estimated to grow by US $57.41 billion between now and 2028. So according to a report released by market research firm Technavio, according to Technavio, a key reason behind the industry's growth is consumer focus on sustainability. So this one came to us by Global Coffee Report magazine. The Yanks getting behind some coffee.
Yep. Everyone's got a thirst for it, don't they?
Well, apparently it's funny when a US consumer comes to Melbourne, they say, where do I get coffee? And ironically, I've just walked into a coffee store, but a lot of the time they're looking for a Starbucks. And I don't know. I've never been to the US. I would love to go. Hopefully I get to go. Have you? Have you been?
I've been many times. I'm actually a dual citizen. My mum's from Salt Lake City, Utah. So I've got family over there.
Jazz fan.
And I spent nearly half a year of my life in a small town called Potosi, Missouri, which is about 2 hours south of St. Louis. I always used to refer to it as where the Midwest met the Bible Belt. But that's the sort of place where, unless it's a nationalized franchise or a real old school mum and pop style store, they just will not buy into it. They are very insecure in how they spend their money, particularly around food and beverage.
In defense of the US though, I think Onyx Coffee. So that's the one where Lance Hedrick works for and Andrea Allen owns. They're in Arkansas. So I think they're in Arkansas. I might get Arkansas, yeah, but the city of Arkansas. But I think I might get cancelled for getting that wrong if it is indeed wrong. Moving on, Starbucks.
Bit of an Arkansas point. There we go.
Hit the button for that one. All right, Starbucks in trouble in China. Okay, so recent data tells a troubling story for the US coffee giant. In the first quarter 2024, Starbucks sales in China plummeted by 11%, with the average order price dropping by 8%. In contrast, Luckin Coffee's market share rose from 3.3% in 2020 to 9.1% in 2022, eventually overtaking Starbucks in 2023. So, Luckin's rise has been attributed to an aggression expansion strategy. Unlike Starbucks' larger, more traditional cafes, Luckin focused on opening over 18,500 smaller, strategically located outlets, primarily in office buildings, catering to the on-the-go professionals. 18,500 cafes.
I run, 5, and I find that difficult to manage. I couldn't imagine looking at 18,500.
Imagine being the operations manager for one of those.
Yeah, it'd put you in an early grave, surely.
Yeah, it would. But also, I think a whole bunch of World Barista Champions paid ambassadors for Luckin Coffee. So I don't know how they get the money for this. I mean, there'd be some large, obviously, investment group behind it. But 18,500 shops, can you imagine that?
No, I cannot.
How many does Starbucks have globally? It's like nearly 40,000 or something.
Good question.
That's a couple of coffee shops. Anyway. So
lattes.
That's a couple of lattes. Frappuccinos. Lastly, and probably most importantly, Emily Ratajkowski has been spotted going for a morning coffee in, I think, New York, in what is called a city kini. And we've got a picture of her right here. Who knows, maybe when we edit the program, we slide the picture up. But she's...
Might need a break.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Cool off after that one.
Yeah, that's I'm
glad that's made the news. So.
Yeah. that is
what can't coffee do?
Serious show business, but the diplomacy and she's having it looks like she's holding an iced latte or something. Okay. Yeah. All right. Great commentary on that one, Dan. Thank you.
Mate, I'm still floored by it. Yeah. Imagine serving her. Imagine being the one working in that cafe when she walked in like that and you're like, oh my God. That's Emily Ratajkowski, and she's not wearing much clothes.
Yeah, it's like I mean, we've had some rare units come to our cafes. I think I served someone in a Big Bird outfit one time, and they literally stayed in the bit the whole time, and that was pretty impressive. But coming for a coffee dressed like that, I mean, that's something new.
Indeed.
It'd be interesting.
I
in
hope
Melbourne.
she tipped.
Yeah, I hope she did as well.
Can I ask, have you got any memes of some memorable customers coming through? In any walk of life?
Off the top of my dome, I cannot.
Can I
Give me a second.
jump in here?
Please do.
I once made the former Prime Minister of this country, Scott Morrison, a coffee. You know what my claim to fame is? I wasn't happy with the way he was running the country at the time. He asked for a skinny flat white, made it on full cream.
Well, actually, if we're getting political, Josh Frydenberg, the former treasurer, was actually a regular customer as his office before he got kicked out of Kooyong, was on Burke Road, Camberwell, just near my original store. So particularly during lockdowns, he'd come in quite a bit and get the photo ops and didn't know what email hate was until apparently I appeared in a Facebook post with the Liberal chair.
And we're apolitical.
No, my businesses do not represent politics. But yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, Scomo, take that, bitch. All right. So moving on. So today's theme, we're talking about progressing through a cost of living crisis, having a coffee business. Dan, we just started the show drinking your wonderful coffee. Tell us a bit about, again, you've got 5 stores.
Yep.
5 stores. And you're thinking about expanding your roastery. All this while, bear in mind, it sounds counterintuitive to it. Like there's layoffs happening. We saw Telstra the other day sack, I think, 3,000 workers. So that's our biggest teleco in this country.
That was pretty terrifying considering my wife works for Telstra.
Okay, well, more on that to come, clearly. But then there's also, I mean, the economy is the same sort of around the world right now. I think a lot of people are pessimistic, but I mean, there's that doesn't mean it's all doom and gloom. It doesn't mean the economy stops. It doesn't mean life stops. Still time to have a go, as you're doing. So what are you sort of working on with the next phase of your business? And
yeah, so look, I've spent probably 5 years developing the brand that we've worked with Nigel, and we've really established ourselves across that. And a couple of years into that, it sort of made sense to look at the vertical integration of roasting our own coffee, particularly considering so much of our revenue is derived from that sales base. So we started, as some brands do, we're able to look into the co-roasting thing, where rather than having a large capital contribution to begin with, or outlay, we were able to pay by the hour, which gave us the early access to the information that we need to form the relationship we need with brokers to make sure we can get regular supply of green coffee and really set ourselves up a really great foundation.
So you go into a shared space where roasters can all sort of sign up or get in a lot of time.
Yeah, it's like gym memberships.
Yeah, so you don't have to buy a $500,000 setup. You can just sort of start your roasting business.
Exactly right. So with a bit of IP, some investment into a brand and some startup stock, you can get yourself started. Obviously, I was in a privileged position to be able to start by being my own customer with sort of over 100 kilos of wholesale immediately. So I was able to replace my coffee supplier at the same price and clip a ticket. So I've been able to self-fund the expansion of this business from day dot as my own customer. So I guess where we've landed is there is a bit of a limitation on that model. As I said, it's a fantastic place to learn and to grow, but the limitation on the co-roasting thing is that as you grow and your volumes grow, so do your costs, because you're paying by the hour. Now, obviously, supply and demand will dictate your ability to renegotiate terms down the track, but ultimately, what we want to achieve is to compete and to put ourselves out there, and you really need a base of operations to do that. And I think selling a story as well, a place where people can come and see the magic happen that you own, that's entirely shaped by you, is really important part of that value proposition. So yeah, we're in the processes of sort of looking at that now. I literally came from a warehouse inspection on my way here.
He looks good, doesn't he?
I'm trying my best.
He's dressed well.
It was. I didn't need to. I didn't need to dress to impress, because as it happened, the real estate agent that I met with was one of my employees' fathers. So small world.
Is he going to give you a discount?
We can only hope.
Oh, well, we can. One interesting question I have in that is that obviously you're having to go. I mean, obviously it's a well-managed business, but this comes at a time where a lot of places are probably struggling. A lot of people are tightening the purse strings with their budgets, so to speak, in the general public, and a lot of restaurants and cafes are doing it tough. My question to you firstly, do you think coffee's in sort of a unique position to actually succeed in a cost of living crisis? Because if I were to draw a comparison, if you go to a lunchtime venue or a dinner venue, and then you either pay, you haven't brought your lunch to work, so maybe you go buy a $16 toasted sandwich, or maybe you want to go buy dinner and that's a $50 serving. Coffee is kind of like a $5 or $6 thing a day. It's maybe something that people can continue to justify in a cost of living crisis.
It often gets referred to as an affordable luxury, and like not to brandish, or say that I'm smarter than everyone else in hospitality, but we very much looked at our expansion through a really rough period. I opened my second cafe in 2021, at the start of 2021, and the third and fourth in 2022, still in the shadows of the pandemic. So we knew from that time how robust the business model was in our ability to scale, because we don't do full service cafes. So my labor model is very different to a restaurant. And I speak to some of my friends who are operators of large scale, large format restaurants, and they're really feeling the pinch, because, just the pure cost of staffing a venue that does table service, that has multiple bar backs and multiple KPs and multiple chefs, and the strain that's been placed on, the skill shortages recently, it just takes a cost on operations. Whereas for us, we run really lean. There's obviously a ceiling on what we can achieve within each location, but the setup costs are relatively cheap, and the ongoing costs are pretty cheap for me as well. And the cost of goods work really positively for me. So,
well, just to give you an anecdote on some of what you touched on there, this morning I went out to breakfast my one day off during the week, and I went to a cafe that I've been to a few times, and I have prior knowledge that they've they've got a few venues, and I have prior knowledge that the owner or the management have said we need to keep our staff costs at a certain percentage. So that means you've got 2 people on for the first hour. And then it was unexpectedly busy this first hour this morning. And so it took me 25 minutes to get a coffee, and like, I don't care. I'm me. I don't care. But I could hear other people sort of muttering, they're not happy. And it's kind of that thing you're talking about. You don't actually know how to prepare for what situation in advance. It could just be unexpectedly busy for any reason. And you kind of can't service. It's hard to predict how to service a cafe in contemporary times. Like, it's almost kind of better to like have a harm minimization approach like you're sort of talking about, where you've got a sort of limited brief. You've got what you offer, and that's built to cater for an audience in, I guess, a larger amount of situations.
Yeah, well, look, and I think you got to look at coffee as a habitual purchase cycle as well, right? Anyone who's buying a coffee a day is probably buying it every day. So once you crack a person, you're likely going to get them, unless their context changes throughout the week, you're going to get them more often than not. So you're not looking at individual transactions. You're looking at what they mean to you over a week, a month, or a year sort of thing. So we focus on those nuts and bolts. But like, you're right, the strain that's coming back, people are going to have to find ways to tighten their belts. I guess where I've sort of landed with it is looking at ways not to necessarily reduce our labour model, but to ease our service model so that we can then reallocate that labour to help grow revenue streams or provide additional value adds to our customers. Like, I walk into a lot of cafes these days that don't really have a prominent retail section, and let me tell you, and this was one of the driving forces behind starting my own brand was, when I opened my Armadale shop, the retail section is in front of the door, and we sell so much coffee off the shelf there. And I just thought, what an opportunity for me when I've got customers walking in and they're taking a brand home and it's living in their space that's not mine. Why would I not be putting my brand in that space to keep it in their subconscious?
Can you stare down the barrel of that camera and in one sentence say that? Just drive that point home really nice and clearly about retail coffee.
If I can give you one piece of advice, small cafe owners, make your retail section an emphasis. It's a value add. It's something that they will flippantly purchase at the end of their coffee that changes a $5 transaction into a $25 transaction.
Okay, and we do that 10 times a day, then you're stacking bricks there.
Yeah, 100%.
Building things there. I'm interested, just on the subject of retail, I was reading the newspaper the other day and I saw a great big whole page ad for instant coffee sold at a shop called Coles here in Australia, so one of the big supermarkets. And I kind of got to this question. Are we as a coffee and cafe industry, are we competing with jars of instant coffee at the moment?
It's hard to say. I mean, the sort of consumers that I interact with on a day-to-day basis, I'd say no. But, when it comes to accessibility to good quality coffee in the city, probably not. But the further out you get, the harder it is to get a good coffee, then maybe sure. Maybe offices where people are going, they don't want to leave the office. The office might not have a budget for whiz-bang machines or pods or XYZ. Then yeah, that's what's going on the shelf there. And when you know what it's like when you're desperate for caffeine, you're going to reach for the instant if it's there.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point because you hear a lot of doom and gloom in the industry. And one thing I want people to take from this podcast is like, there are, in the 90s in Australia, my dad tells me about this all the time. Paul Keating, our Prime Minister, then said it was the recession that Australia had to have. So you got it. And that was the 90s. Obviously, there was a bit of a downturn during COVID. There's always going to be. But the economy works in cycles. Yes, it does look like we appear to be going down a protracted sort of recession across the world. And, there's a lot of, conflict going on. And there's reasons to sort of feel down about that. But things will correct themselves at some point. Like, it's not like there's no opportunities.
Well, I think there's also an opportunity as well, given how well publicised the strains in society are at the moment, for us to have finally a dialogue with our customers about what is fair and reasonable to pay for our products. And if they choose to bypass what we offer for something that's more cost effective and convenient to them, then that's the power of the consumer, right? But it's hard for us as operators who have a responsibility to the people that work for us as suppliers to make sure we're paying in full long time, not to make sure that we're getting the best possible returns for our value proposition as long as we are meeting that standard with our customers, especially when the announcement was made yesterday, the 3.75% increase to the minimum wage or to the award, which is going to have a direct impact on you and I, Kirk, as of July 1 as cafe operators. But it's also a really easy thing for me to go back to the customers and say, you've seen it. It's been publicised here. The people who are making your coffee are being the recipients of this, and that's great. They need it more than most, as university students supporting themselves through that sort of thing. So, but you guys need to pay for it, So prices are going to go up consistently, if not a little bit more.
So will you put your prices up 100%. On July 1?
I would love to advocate for small business owners to have an annualised price increase so that they condition their customers over a long period of time. Because
so that comes in July 1.
July 1, my price is going up. 100%.
All right, so July 1, 2024, do we need to have a national raise your prices of coffee day?
I don't know if the ACCC would be so happy about this collusion, but yeah, if I could say.
Well, I'm not. It's not like I'm colluding. I'm just Kirk running a little podcast here.
Yes, we should both advocate for everyone put your prices up as of July 1. If the whole industry does it, no one can sort of say you're being unfair.
All right, here's me telling you, national put your prices up day on July 1, 2024. Let's do it. Bacardi and Cola. Do it. Have you seen Starsky and Hutch?
Do it.
We're talking about quite a serious subject here, and I know we're not at the extra hot take section, and this is not my extra hot take with two sugars, but I'm also going to say something that's a little extra hot with two sugars here. I mentioned before the jar of instant coffee that I saw advertised in Coles, yeah? Mm-hmm. Coles Local. And there's a duopoly of supermarkets in Australia. You've got Coles and then Woolworths, but they have like a sort of a light version of themselves. Like, if you got full cream milk, you got light milk. There's Coles Local, which is like their little Metro hit one, and Woolworths Metro. And I like to say a little something to Coles Local and Woolworths Metro. Fuck you. I hate them because they offer less goods. They offer, and I hope this is something that goes viral because, it should just permeate. It should transcend the industry. You get less stuff. Is it more expensive?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more expensive. There's less things. I know we don't have much of a choice, but they suck.
Yeah, they're working in the convenience market. So I'll give you an example. The other morning, bright and early before any of the supermarkets were open, I went to buy a bottle of milk. Can't have, my household with my kids without milk. Mm-hmm. Bought a 2-litre bottle of average name brand for $5.50 and walked past the super auto machine selling coffees for $2. And I sort of think to myself, how is this the world we live in? How is that these multinational chains can use coffee as a loss leader and yet people won't balk at the price of a bloody bottle of milk when they're going in there because they're hamstrung on time.
And it's weird because they stock some pretty good stuff in these Coles Locals and Woolworths Metros.
I try to buy independent anytime I go to them,
Yeah, well, but they stock items that they wouldn't have at their bigger venues. And anyway, we won't go too stuck on them, but they've got some good coffee in there as well. But don't buy from them.
Buy it from small retailers.
Buy it from small retailers, but like Kirk and I. But speaking, in my day-to-day, I serve a lot of customers that come from offices, and I'm sure you do, as do you. I'm going to be very honest with it. Not a lot of them love their jobs. And so like coming to the cafe is kind of like their little, they need their coffee break. They've got a machine up on their floor. They wouldn't need to pay for a coffee from, but they're like, nah, I need my escape from work to come down and get a coffee. And I was speaking to someone yesterday who was considering making the leap, working for a big company. He's staring down the barrel of a redundancy and he's thinking to himself, do I just get into the industry? Do I just pivot? Like I'll get paid significantly less, but my life will suck a lot less. What do you think about people doing that? And what do you think about people potentially wanting to do that right now? Because a lot of people listening to this might think, well, I'd love to do that, but we're going through turbulent economic times. There's never a good time really to pick to do that, is there?
Not particularly, no. But I guess on the other side of the token, it's always a good time because working in a cafe and making coffee, like I've been doing it for 15 years. I don't do as much of it as I used to, but if I have to fill in shifts, you know, I had an SOS call yesterday. I turned up to one of my busiest stores at 9 o'clock after someone hadn't turned up for a shift. And there was a line of 50 people out the door because it's next to one of those big supermarket chains head office that you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I made a bit of a joke out of it. I was like, guys, don't worry, I'm here. You're not going to wait too long. But I'm standing there pumping out coffees. We've got the tunes going, having a laugh with the customers. And as a vocation, a way to spend your time, it's why I've done it for so long, because when it boils down to it, we're making delicious things. We're sharing a space, as you call it, like a little bit of an escape for people in those situations. And what isn't there to enjoy about that? So if you can make it work, if you can go into these things eyes open with, you know, the realities of the costs and maybe the ceilings of running a business like this, but it brings you joy and value to your existence, I always feel like I can hang my hat on the fact that the businesses that I own leave the world a better place than when we started, just by purely making people slightly happier in their day, and then all the other things that we do to try and contribute to our communities. But if I could advocate in that sense, then yeah, get rid of the 9 to 5, and yeah, it's going to be hard, but if you love it, it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a valuable way to spend your time.
I've got an impromptu question for you. What's your coffee hero story? As in, like, have you rocked up to a place, the barista's died or something, and then they've got no barista, or they're getting slammed, and you've just been like, right, I'll pull up the sleeve and I'll help out?
Actually, I have done this before. It wasn't barista. It was at a wine bar that had just opened on Bridge Road. And Bridge Road is near the MCG. And it was, I think, their second Friday night, and a big footy game had just finished, and Bridge Road fills up with the post-footy traffic. And these guys, there was 2 of them working in this wine bar, and they were getting absolutely hammered. There's empty glasses. And I'd come from the footy too, so I was half cut. And I've just gone on up to the bloke, and I'm like, mate, I know this is weird, but you guys are getting hammered. I'm hospo. Of course I say that. I was much younger at the time. And I was like, do you want me to help you out? So I'm going clearing tables, pouring glasses, cutting cheese for an hour. And I don't think he realised until afterwards that I was off my scone. So, but he's actually a customer these days. So I wonder if he remembers this.
WUI, working under influence. I like it. I'm going to tell a story of my own, if you don't mind, Producer Liam. So I went to a cafe. I'm an early riser, so you usually find me at doors open. And I went to the cafe, it was last year, and this is when I was a milkman. So I was actually this customer's milkman at the time. And so so what had happened was the barista hadn't showed up to work. They were still doing food. And I walked in, I said, oh, can I help? Can I get a coffee? And they're like, oh, actually, no, the barista's, our machine's not working. I said, oh, what's wrong with the machine? She goes, well, actually, the barista hasn't shown up to work. And I said, well, I can do this. And she looked at me and she's like, you sure? I was like, yeah, I've got this. And so I for an hour and a half, I soloed that thing, and no one knew the difference. They're like, oh, you're the new bloke, eh? I said, yes.
Yeah, it's always good like that.
But I love those little stories. And, you know, sometimes I see people in the shit.
I'm always tempted to jump on the pour.
Yeah.
Especially like one of my locals, Joe Frank in Ashburton, Fab and Mass, great dudes. I'll stand on the other side and talk shit with them, and they have actually got me to pour a couple from time to time, but I'm always like, come on, just give it to me. Let me show you what I got.
One question on the sort of office worker topic: is working from home hurting the coffee industry? So the Australian Bureau of Statistics reports that 37% of Australians worked regularly at home in August last year, compared to about 32% in 2019 and a peak of 40% in 2021. More telling is about 60% of workers who used to clog offices work from home regularly, compared with 22% across other occupations. So that's from investmentmagazine.com.au. So is working from home, is that disproportionately affecting the coffee industry?
I would say yes. I mean, I can only speak from my stats and data, but Fridays used to be one of my strongest days. Now it's my worst by a long way. In particular, if you look at the shop I was referencing before, which is next to, you know, a big head office of a multinational company, we will drop by about 40% on a Friday because no one goes to work on Fridays anymore. That's always their work from home day. And call me a cynic, but like, no one's doing any work at home on a Friday after midday.
No,
I just don't trust or believe it.
Yeah, I wonder if that will change, because we're sort of, as we've alluded to, we're heading into turbulent economic times, and maybe some people feel somewhat more, on the hot seat in their regular day-to-day jobs.
Well, the data still, I don't think paints an entire picture when it comes to productivity, because I think it's around the fringes that's going to be the most impactful, like the lack of mentorship, which I know is a bit of a buzzword and something that offices and large businesses are trying to use as leverage to get people to come back. But I mean, I spent time working in offices when I worked, a wholesale coffee company, and it was that interaction that really helped drive, my enjoyment of things. I'm not the sort of person who can sit in a room by myself and be productive. And that's a me problem. But I'm sure lots of people have that same sort of an issue as well, right? So I just think, like, what are we doing if we're not spending, a huge chunk of our time a week with other people? I feel like there's so many different vehicles for us to use to disconnect ourselves from each other. Why do that as well? And I get it, if you want to put on a load of laundry or pick up the kids or do that sort of thing, it makes things slightly more convenient. But at the same time, like, what are we losing here in terms of personal connection?
Well,
that's my concern.
There's that element to it. No, I don't think it's not constructive to be like, they should come back because, we don't control that. But there's the kind of price that the vibe of the city pays. Like Melbourne is, the city's so awesome in so many ways. And I feel like it just kind of loses its essence on a Monday and a Friday at the moment because there's so many less people in there.
Yeah. Well, not to jump on one of your next questions, just reading ahead, but like the impact that this has had on small businesses, particularly when it comes to rent, is really significant because rent and landlords are still pushing for increases, despite the fact that we're trading in these businesses in a diminished manner that hasn't been reflected in the valuation of these rents. So, particularly if you have a business like yours or some of mine, which are designed to be in a 5-day trading thing because that's when people work, and all of a sudden people aren't coming in, you're already foregoing rent that you're paying for 2 days of the week by not trading on the weekends. But now we're losing another day to Fridays, that sort of thing. It's like somewhere something's got to give, and landlords, I know it's an easy low-hanging fruit when it comes to villains, but commercial landlords are no better than domestic landlords in that sense. They all want returns, and none of them are prepared to see that the strain is real on businesses as well.
And from my research, this isn't just an Australian thing either. I was reading about some things online about San Francisco of all places, and this is just what I saw online. So I don't know that it's actually credible or not. So skew me in the comments if you want. But a lot of vacant real estate, commercial real estate in downtown San Francisco right now that's not being reoccupied because, from what I've read, landlords just won't decrease the rent or be flexible in any way, shape, or form. So is the model kind of a bit silly with commercial real estate at the moment because maybe they're just clinging on to hope and it looks like the value is depreciating. A lot of investment funds own the big office towers in Melbourne. It's not like the one dude owns them. It's like superannuation funds, which is like retirement savings for Australians. Are they not being realistic about this?
I don't think so. But look, I'm not to speak out of my lane, but it's a much more complicated thing from their perspective, which I do understand and sympathise, where they'll look at rental returns as part of their valuation. They use their valuations to leverage banks to get more loans to buy more buildings. So if they have a real-time dip in those returns when it comes to rent, then they don't get the same valuations. They don't get to continue to expand, which loses their money on the shares if they're public companies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, it's this notion that money makes money, which doesn't actually work hand in hand with small business, or people in general, it seems like.
Do you think it's probably an area where people, businesses and their landlords could probably benefit from having a better relationship? Because if you go back to COVID, I think I remember you and I clearly having this discussion as well. Some landlords were not forgiving at all. That's like, okay, even though you cannot run your shop, you pay me your rent or else. And it's just like, that's not realistic for everyone, and not really benefiting to the landlord in that sense either. Is there a bit of a essence here? Maybe have a better relationship with your landlord, because you're thinking about it with your rep. If you're a shop owner or if you work as a rep for a company, you will work harder for someone that's nicer to you. So say, for example, I was a milkman once. Some guy, blows up at me and swears at me during the week, rings me on a Saturday when I'm not working and he wants milk. I'm not picking up the phone if you're a jerk to me. I'm sorry. That's the way it works, realistically. could it be the same with a landlord, though, having a better relationship?
Look, I think in an ideal world, potentially, but look, not every landlord has the comfort or privilege to be able to take a hit when it comes to these sorts. They face the same sorts of pressures as we do. They've got, other interests and obligations financially as well. So as much as we'd like to see, all these people who own property as, the cream of the crop in terms of finances, it's not the reality for a lot of them. Now, I know you can come back and say, yeah, well, it's an investment like anything else. So you caveat emptor in that sense, but that's just not the way people work, are they? They're always going to choose themselves first when push comes to shove. Now, if I was a landlord and I was in the fortunate position to sustain a property like that, and someone like me or like you was struggling, then yeah, by all means, I'd try and make it work for them. Because what's worse, having less rent or no rent if they go under, and then you're trying to sue them for lost revenue? Come on, it's a fine balance.
Interesting story, actually. When I was looking for a site for the cafe that I now run, it was the landlord that we were talking to. He owned a whole block of the city, essentially. And so he wouldn't position one cafe next to another cafe that he leads to, which is kind of like a good thing if you wanted to maintain that relationship. But also he led us down the garden path where it's like, yeah, we'll rent this to you. Then right at the last minute, it's like, no, we're not. So that just wasted 3 months of our time. That's a bit strange. And you do deal with people like that.
Yeah, well, of course. And then there's always greener pastures as well. So you don't know what was going on in the background. I guess that one of the interesting observations that I've had in recent times, there's been a bit of a movement, any development, landlords are going, it'd be great to get a cafe in here. And what landlords and developments have recognised is a lot of hospitality operators, which add value to what they're doing, are cash poor, but they've got a good concept, they've got a track record of running successful businesses. So what they'll do is actually offer a capital contribution, beyond just rent free, as in they will fund fit outs in a large scale as a percentage of what that ultimate lease is going to be. So if
you're opening a cafe, they'll help you build it.
Pretty much, as long as you commit to a long and, most importantly, expensive lease. It can be a bit of a trap. And this is what's happened at a lot of the city, why some of these vacancies have happened, because people go, I do my figures predicated on this certain rental return, and then this huge anomaly has occurred. They've had a change to their business model. They all of a sudden have dropped revenue. They've agreed to a rent that was predicated on values that no longer exist, and they're on the hook for this huge amount of rent that they've signed on for because they funded the cafe with someone else's money. So I've gone into negotiations recently and kind of flipped it the other way and been like, no, I'll pay for the fit out, but I want you guys to significantly reduce the rent. And because of what I was just talking about, where they're looking at you as a value multiplier based on your rental return, they go, oh no, I can't get a valuation on this property as high as I used to. So I'm not going to take you on, even though you're probably a more candidate. I'd rather you get, pay me more and I'll give you cash up front.
So is it a buyer's market right now, commercial real estate wise? Yes and no, I guess.
Yes and no?
Yeah.
Depends on who you are.
But anyway, let's get into some fun stuff. We've got a new segment in that you weren't here for last time called Rapid Fire Questions. I'm going to ask you 20 questions.
20?
Yeah, 20 questions within a minute. You need to try and answer them as best you can. Most of them are a yes or no answer. Some you'll have to improvise. I'll be impressed if you answer the one in there that it's like a bit of a landmine correctly. But we'll see. So, Liam, you ready for Rapid Fire Questions?
Oh yeah, we're gonna bring the heat.
Hey, it's just
You ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
And your time starts now.
Washed or natural?
Natural for milk, wash for filter.
Milk, espresso or filter?
Milk.
V60 or batch brew?
Batch brew.
Rowan or Kirk?
Pass.
Team Edward or Jacob?
Jacob.
What's your height?
183 centimetres or exactly 6 foot.
Last meal before you die?
Probably roast pork.
Stuck on an island, what's one item you take with you?
Knife.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Messy.
Instant or pod coffee?
Pod.
Airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
African or European?
Great. Conor McGregor or Michael Chandler?
McGregor.
LeBron or MJ?
LeBron.
Starbucks or McDonald's?
Macca's.
Favourite cafe that's not your own?
Joe Frank.
Best coffee outside of Melbourne? It's a city.
Sydney.
Is tea underrated?
Yes.
Starbucks or Luckin?
Starbucks.
I'm going to put one more in after the siren. James Hoffman or Lance Hedrick?
Hoffman.
Oh!
I'm old school.
All right.
Hot one for you. I've never watched a Lance Hendrick video. They're too long
You
for
should.
me.
Oh, well, okay.
So Hoffman's, to be honest.
Constructive feedback there, but Lance is excellent.
Yeah.
His refractometer vid, I mean, I know it's nerdy, but Lance is excellent. He's a lovely guy too.
I'm sure he is. Nothing against him.
Fantastic guy. Okay. All right. There was one other thing that I kind of wanted to ask you here. We've been on the topic of, and let's keep it to the Australiana theme in a way. Getting a bit hot there, Dan.
I am actually getting a bit hot.
That's coming in a second. That's coming in a second.
I'm excited for that one.
All right. So your top 3 cafe breakfast dishes.
Ooh. The first one that comes to mind was the one that Dobbers used to do at St. Ali. Pancakes, bacon, eggs, maple syrup.
All right.
Phenomenal breakfast.
All right, that's one.
I'm really boring with breakfast. I go to places, the benchmark for me is poached eggs on toast, bacon, avocado. I can eat that every single day of the week. You know, one thing really annoys me when places don't, I get not sending out 2 pieces of toast. Look at me, send me 2 pieces of toast.
Yeah. What about
I'm
one
a
big
guy.
one?
Oh, I don't mind one big one, but don't I know cafes send lots of toast into the bin, but just don't surprise me. Don't make me wait for my egg to get cold while you toast another piece of bread. Just
It's not like you're paying by the slice either.
I'm not going to be offended. I'm a big dude. So
third dish.
Third. They used to do that hot cake at Top Paddock. And I know I've said pancakes twice here. I love pancakes. I make pancakes for my kids at home all the time.
Yeah.
And for myself, Dan cakes.
I like that. You got to go to a place called Operator Diner in Melbourne CBD.
I've heard good things.
They do great pancakes, but they've got this like pecan butter on the top, which I know probably sounds a bit sort of fancy and bougie. The producer Liam's absolutely
Sounds
loving
delicious.
this. Yeah, but it just melts so perfectly. Operator Diner, shout out to you. Good, doing a great job. I'm going to throw in a few of my own here. I'm a vegetarian nowadays. I'm 2.5 years strong, but back in the day, still going to give a shout out to the old bacon and egg roll.
Ooh.
Cannot go past a bacon and egg roll. It's like the Australian, I don't know.
Iconic.
Yeah, it is iconic. So you can't go past that. Former colleague of ours, who's now unbelievably famous, Andy Cooks.
Andy,
used to do a dish called the North African fry-up. So Andy, if you're seeing this, please make the North African fry-up video on your channel.
I swear I was in his first 10 followers on TikTok. I swear.
Yeah, no.
And then now he's got
we knew him before it was cool.
Yeah.
We really
he was
did.
always cool.
He still is. He's still a very humble guy. And then my last one, I love the baked eggs from Axel. Nothing like a shakshuka or baked eggs. Can't go past it.
No.
So that would be my top 3 dishes for breakfast.
Can I jump in there?
Okay.
Ask you both a question. Very Melbourne based, but what are your thoughts on the smashed avo on the menus? Because like you're talking about coffee going up, I feel like the smashed avo is getting a little bit cheeky in the price world.
If you've seen the fluctuation in market price for avocados, it should seriously be, like when you go into a restaurant and you get the fish of the day, it says MP. It should be the same thing with avocados. I'm like, how can we possibly charge a stable price for something that literally can double? I remember when I haven't bought avocados for the shops in a long time, but they were like $40 a box, and then just arbitrarily one day they came in at 85. And I'm just like, I actually had to literally put up avocado price up. I was like saying to people, I'm really sorry, we're going to have to put it up by $2 for the time being.
Could there be how there's a stock market and it's constantly monitoring the prices of stocks?
Yeah, 100%.
This is the price of our smashed avocado today.
Trading in the futures avocado market.
Can I jump in here and say there was a building developer, property developer in Melbourne, Tim Gurner. He's the guy with the forehead that's got its own cosmography. It's huge. Can we put this? Surely this gets a tag as a short or something. Oh. That head is massive.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's very rich.
He could write his annual report on his projections.
Oh man, it's got its own tractor beam. It's like when Ben Kenobi's in A New Hope. That's no moon. Anyway, he's probably going to sue me for this, but anyhow, he was saying that for those listening outside of Australia, there's a link between buying lots of smashed avocado and never being able to afford a home. So because you can't buy a home because you buy too much smashed avocado.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was interesting. Let's go into extra hot take with 2 sugars time. It's getting fucking hot here. It is warm. Hot take, 2 sugars. All right, I'm going to start off with the hottest take maybe ever in the history of extra hot takes with 2 sugars, and it's going to break this state Victoria, Melbourne. It's going to break their heart. Strap yourself in.
Hey, Kirk, can I ask you a question? You're about to yell into the mic.
Sorry.
You're about to yell?
No. All right, so we're going to have to monitor this. The magic is shit.
Wowee.
Now, there's only one role for the magic. You don't drink it because you like it. The one scenario for a magic is in Melbourne, you've got someone from the Sydney office visiting. You're in line and they're saying, haven't you guys got you got that special coffee? It's the magic.
Oh, you got to try them.
You got to try it. The magic tastes like a Marlboro Red.
Yeah, it's not great. And look, just to pile, I was actually going to use this one, so thanks for stealing my thunder here.
I got a flash.
Just to give a little bit of context as someone who makes these things, they're just horrendously inconsistent because your 3/4 versus someone else's 3/4 versus your double ristretto versus, and let's not get started on ristretto coffee because it's garbage to begin with. It's just such wild fluctuations.
So define a magic. So
it is a double ristretto 3/4 flat white. That is exactly what it is. And I've explained it to customers, who then, it sounds like a good magic coffee sort of areas.
But it really is. Like in practice, if you see it, it's the
if you
guy
want a strong
coming.
coffee with less milk, that's great. We can make you that. But let's redefine the magic.
As what? Something tasty?
Long Mac topped up.
I knew that. I should have seen that coming. What's your...
My turn?
Yeah,
My turn? People, I love sustainability. I love how much people have engaged in it. But please wash your keep cups.
Ooh.
And if you can't wash your keep cups, buy 2 of them and rotate. There you go. I just solved your problem. Stop handing dirty cups and go, it just needs a bit of a rinse. And it's got half your kids' breakfast in it and it's crusty from being in the car all weekend. Come on. It's not fun. It's not cool.
Sometimes there are situations where someone cannot wash their keep cup.
And yeah, sure.
Yeah, maybe. But maybe we should invest in like hot water fountains where it's like a self-serve, clean your own keep cup.
50-cent surcharge, we'll chuck it through the dishwasher.
Oh, okay.
But all these things come at a cost. We're talking about a cost of living crisis. And, adding a step to the coffee making process takes time, makes other customers wait. It's not to mention the hygiene issue of putting a dirty cup under spouts.
One thing I want to talk about while we're on this topic of keep cups is, and we've spoken about it briefly on this podcast before, is like doing the keep cup system better. So what we should be able to do as coffee shop owners, because, you got to manage whose cup's who. And if you've got 10 of these things, it's like, you don't know, Jan's is the grey one. We should be able to start writing on permanent marker or something, your actual coffee order. Should be able to write it on the cup. Then we know how to get it through.
There's actually
quicker.
a good innovation that Husky Cup have started doing through a lot of sort of hubs. In particular, I've had some interaction with them through Swinburne University where they're actually providing keep cups to cafes so that you've got stock on a swap system and customers come in and they pay a pretty nominal amount. It's like $10 or $12 to have that one. And when they bring it in, they go, this one's dirty. And you just take one from the top of the machine. It's funny you bring up that, like the impact it's had on service, because I remember, do you remember Craig Rucastle's War on Waste?
Yes.
It was the thing that really kicked off people's use of keep cups, because he took single-use coffee cups to task on how bad they were from a sustainability aspect. And that came out, and I was working in wholesale, so I wasn't making coffee that much at the time. And I went to help out a cafe that I'd just started with. And I was blown away by how many people had started to use keep cups for it. And I found it really frustrating because it's so easy when you're making takeaway coffee when you've got all the things there, because the workflow is so seamless. As soon as you introduce a different cup to it, there's extra, the person on the till has to press different buttons to make sure that, it's noted that if there's multiple keep cups, that everyone's getting the right drink and the right thing. And then don't get me started if you accidentally break a customer's keep cup. Where's the obligation? Is it on us to then provide you a new one or give you cash for the one that we've broken? So people bring in all these rickety old mugs, which is great. But, again, maybe caveat emptor.
Yeah, it's we should be able to write your name and your coffee order on it, like in permanent marker or something.
Yeah.
Or there should be like a sticker at the very least.
Yeah.
Or a husky. Or just, have one done it. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. But that just about wraps it up for today. Any concluding remarks from you, Dan?
Mate,
what do you want to sign off with to the people?
I'm just so happy to be here. And it's like I genuinely have no clue what I'm doing most of the time. I'm just making it up as I go along, just flying by the seat of my pants. So getting a message from you saying, fill in for Rowan. I've listened to every episode so far.
Thank you.
And I'm very chuffed that I'm now a repeat offender.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you will be on again.
Let's do it.
What do you, producer? This is to both of you. What do you reckon the worst thing I've said today is? Like, you know, we had the Coles local and Woolworths Metro.
The Ratajkowski thing really threw me, mate. I'm not going to lie. So you're like, oh, thanks for the comment. I'm like, what am I meant to say here, man? Yeah, she's really hot.
Yeah. Anyway, but there was Ratajkowski, there was the Coles. There's, you know, we basically desecrated the magic. I could have a lawsuit coming from Tim Gurner.
I was going to say that one. Yeah. I'm also like, oh, why are you asking us to bash you? What's the worst thing I said today? You know?
Well, just on the topic of Tim,
I was a little bit curious when I walked in to say, like, did I miss the stage when you became a 42-year-old mother of 3 wearing Skechers?
I'm going to get up and show people these.
They do look extremely comfortable.
Now, the body's aging a bit. I'm going on 30 this year. I'm turning 30 in August, and you know, the body. You can tell when you're at this age when your shoes have expired. You know, my other shoes, I was like, it had been a long time between drinks since I replaced them. I need to wear comfortable shoes to work. So I invested in the Skechers. These things are like walking on marshmallows. They're awesome.
Yeah, I'm laughing at you, but I'm wearing RM Williams, and they are not very delicate on my feet.
Yeah, you're probably looking at you're in inner soles territory. But anyway, you can try these on after the show.
Let's do it. Let's swap shoes.
I'm telling you, they're great.
Walk a day in my shoes, young man.
Yeah, walk a comfortable day in my shoes is what I'm.
My mum, just because now you're a mother of 3, like my mum, she just lives by the Hokers.
Hokers. What's that? What?
Another very comfortable shoe.
If you're into the Skechers, Hoka's going to change your life.
Yeah, okay.
Mother of 3, Kirk.
Yeah. I also, to double down on this mother of 3 point, I also wear compression socks to work nowadays. You know, really.
You're 30, I'm 35, and really show where the body starts to break down. My podiatrist told me I need to wear air dry socks to wick away moisture. She's like, it's not quite trench foot, but it's not great. There you go.
Oh, God.
I have a podiatrist. That's where I'm at.
Okay. All right. Well, I might need to get your clinician's details.
She's great.
I'll be there.
Phenomenal.
I'll be there soon. But that just about wraps up the It's Just Coffee. It's Just Coffee. We haven't even said that yet.
We didn't.
Yeah. But let's do it one more time. 3, 2, 1. It's Just Coffee podcast. It's been a pleasure having you on, Dan. We said some controversial things. We spoke about some actually really informative stuff as well. So hopefully that guides you. Had some good extra hot take.
I love putting myself out there. You know, I'm always an open book when it comes to this sort of thing. So, you know, if anyone ever needs advice and needs a chat, just slide into the DMs.
We're across many platforms now. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. Speaking of which, you're on TikTok as well.
Yeah, Dan Dick Talks. I'm trying to do some honest, candid cafe information, sprinkle in a little bit of my dad life there as well.
Yep, get on the Dan Dick Talks get on the Dan Dick Talks if you can. And then
what's your handle?
Dan Dick Talks.
One more time.
Dan Dick Talks.
There it is.
Dan Dick Talks. And then what are we on? So we're on Spotify.
We're on every platform you can find ever. We're on Audible, Spotify, Instagram. We're on YouTube. You know, you're able to see these beautiful faces in the flesh. So look us up on the Golden Brown YouTube channels on the podcast and email us if you have kind of anything to say. hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com.
Yeah,
is
and
us.
if you've got some stuff that you want us to discuss, please email us. If you want to send us some abuse, please email us.
Mailbag. Can I come to the mailbag episode?
Mailbag
Absolutely.
episode?
If people start emailing in, that'd be fun.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We should do a mailbag episode.
Yeah.
If you want to do one on Tim Gurner's aircraft carrier sized head, then yeah, we'll do that as well. But anyway, that just about wraps up the podcast for today. Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure.
And Hooroo, see you again soon.
Ta-ta and farewell.
Ta-ta and farewell. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
That was fun.
Do I go a bit too hard?